Yeah, I somehow, I think it went off when I gave you the hosting ability for some reason.
Okay. Great.
Sorry about that interruption.
No problem.
Can I just respond to Lorraine real quickly too?
Yeah.
We, as you'll see when we move to the next section, when we're talking about educational visioning, there's some opportunities there to engage the public in the educational visioning sessions. I know with David Stevens, we've been working with him, and he has a very great process to do that online, where people can break out into different breakout rooms and talk about individual topics. And he also has he does surveys while he's doing the visioning session, so that everybody has an opportunity to give their individual feedback, and the surveys pop up and they see how everybody what the most important topics are. He's done a really good job to make it very interactive with the public. So we'll have some opportunities to do that during the educational visioning sessions. And then I think that once we start to identify all the current available sites out there, I think the first opportunity have to have a public forum as soon as all available sites have been identified. We'll go to a public forum with everybody, and maybe we may implement some of the same surveys so that people can give their individual comments on the various sites that we identify.
I'm already hearing. Am I muted?
No. Now you're muted, Lorraine.
Now I'm muted. Sorry. I'm already hearing in the community that, oh, it's going here, it's going there, and people are getting riled up again. And I just don't want that to happen this season. They need to know the sites that are possible, the sites that the committee chooses. We need to be in front of it. That's what I think.
Right. I agree.
It's really going to be, and even if we just meet, like someone had suggested at over at Thurgood Marshall, they had dumpster days, they had community get-togethers. That's something that we have to do so that we're hearing what the community wants, and we're going to be able to give them the best, and we can move this through, because I'm not going to go backwards, are we? No, no, no. No.
Awesome.
So Lynn, do you want to watch the screen, and if someone has a question, kind of MC it?
Sure. I think Rich Marlin has his hand up.
Yes. So since we built the Thurgood Marshall School, there's been several global warming reduction, whatever acts. And I'm not sure, has MSB, have they come out with any recommendations on things we have to do different in building this school than we did the last one? Because this school is going to be working in 2050, and by that point we're supposed to have no greenhouse gases. So I don't expect you to answer and do anything tonight, but at some point knowing kind of where we have to go on all of the green environmental, whether it's geothermal, obviously solar panels, what are the energy sources that we can use, would be good to know, because I'm presuming we're in a whole new ball game, and I'm just not sure there's any direction coming out yet, because it's still all being developed even at the state level.
Yes, MSBA has kept up with as much as currently has been approved on the state level in terms of what their requirements for sustainability are. We will be exceeding the Mass Energy Code by 20%, so that we can get our 2% additional reimbursement for sustainability or energy efficiency. But also throughout the project, we will work with Mass Save to see what opportunities we may have in order to use their expertise on developing systems that, one, have quick paybacks, but also two, that we can get rebates and energy efficiency, better energy efficiency from.
And president signing of the Inflation Reduction Act, there's now a direct payment to municipalities for the 30% tax credit that contractors would get. I don't know how that plays since we're going to hire a contractor to do it, but you should also, that's going to start being available in 2023, but there might be another source of income for the city to get reimbursed for some of our expenses on this. I'm not quite sure how it's all going to play out yet, but that's a whole different thing.
Right, and we will also be tracking the design and construction against either LEED for schools or the mass
Chips.
chips. It's for high performance schools. So we'll be asking the committee to make a decision on one of those programs, but that will also, they've also both been kept up with the newer requirements for sustainability. So I'm sure that will continue to evolve as we get deeper into the project. So
If it's okay, oh, we have another question.
yes, Tom.
Thanks, Lynn. Just to follow up on the timeline that you laid out, Gene, related to the submission, and so I'm clear on this, looking at locations, which definitely was an issue 5 years ago. I think you were talking about there could be a number of locations in the submission. We wouldn't have narrowed it down at that point. And I think, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So there could be 4 or 5 positive locations. I think just as, to follow up on what Lorraine was saying, I think it's just as important because as the talk in the community is out there, locations that are not locations that we're looking at, and we can, as a committee, decide that, but there were some that definitely were not supported in the past. So I think it's not only the locations we're looking at, but I think being clear on what we're looking at and what we're not looking at, so that there's no confusion as we move forward on the submission date with a number of locations that hopefully we'll get the input we need to get this moved forward. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And I thought that's what you explained. So as we submit it, we'll have a chance to look at several, and that'll be part of the public input, as well as getting, I like the idea of getting the input online and getting some feedback that way. Obviously, the pandemic has given us other tools that we didn't have in the past to get the kind of public input that we can really work to our advantage.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll be looking at multiple sites, and as I said in January, whatever sites you think are viable and worthy of more study, we will document that. And then our target is sometime in the month of March to actually have selected a site and a plan for the building. All this stuff is obviously subject to, let's see how the process goes.
Can I make a point on that, Gene? Because I think it's important. There's two
Sure.
things we're working with. We want the community to embrace this, but I think we're 5 years out from a vote that we all hoped had been a positive vote, at least 5 years now. The need was clear then, it's even stronger now. So it's having a number of options, but also knowing that we have a narrower timeline because the community needs the schools. So I think that needs to be part of the discussion. So we're not doing this quickly so we can put a proposal before people that people will or won't agree with. I think there's two things here. We want to make sure the community can be part of the discussion, but we also want to make sure that we get this project moving quickly. The need couldn't be clearer, particularly with now English now having to build more modulars. Yep. And the schools bursting at the seams. So I think that those discussions need to be kind of going hand in hand. It's important, clearly important that the community is on board, and we need the support. And we also need, I think, the support to move this quickly with their input.
Yep. Sounds right on. Would it be okay to move to the next slide? Or does anyone have any other thoughts? Okay. I have to click back on the slide. All right, now I can move it. So that brings us to the educational visioning process. And in this case, it's educational, and we might as well we can call it community visioning as well, right? So the gentleman here standing is David Stephen. It's his expertise, and he is a pro at running these meetings, breaking people out, conducting online surveys during the meetings. And I think you will really enjoy his personality and the process. It's unfortunately, he works for many, many, many school districts, and he provided me with these dates. He has to start sending these dates out to other districts, tomorrow or the next day. But what he was asking us, well, first of all, what he's recommending is usually he starts off with a, one Zoom, or it could be in person, but a kickoff meeting sometime during the day with kind of the leadership team. So it could be people from obviously the administration, the school building committee, the city administration, ourselves, and left field. And that's just to talk about the process and how, you all think it would be best to run it. And he has, I'm not sure that we want to take 20 minutes tonight to figure out when people are available, but Lynn, I'm hoping maybe you can send some sort of poll or something, so tomorrow people could talk about their availability. Or if we think we can do it tonight, that's great too. So next week he has these times that are available, and the week after next he has these times. So that gets us kind of through the end of October. Then the actual visioning workshops, he typically recommends 3, and they could be a couple hours, they could be 2.5 hours, 3 hours if it goes over. But there's a few weeks here where he has availability, and typically we run these at night, but you could do it during the day if you want, but at night allows people, as many people as you want to participate. And I would love to have it complete by the end of November. And there's kind of 4 weeks in here that have a couple dates each. I'm not sure if Wednesday nights are good for people. We could do one the 2nd, one the 9th, and one the 16th, or we could finish on the 30th. But we'll be doing visioning. We'll start the space summary. We'll talk about the ed plan. We'll refine the space summary. We'll refine the ed plan as we go through. Lynn, I'm not sure the best way to get a consensus on what would work best. And as I say, it doesn't have to be tonight, but tomorrow would sure be nice.
I think everybody received this slide in their packets that were emailed out to them. If you could print just this page and circle what dates you're available, that might be helpful, and just email them to me. I do think what I have noticed in the past is that if the visioning sessions run over 2 hours, it gets hard to keep people's attention. So in the past, we've worked with him to do, maybe 4 2-hour sessions or 4 hour-and-a-half sessions, as opposed to the 2.5 hours. That's a long time frame for people. So we may want to find a date that works in each of these 4 weeks, so that we have that option.
I will say something else. His focus is on education and kind of helping the district plan the facility and the program. So if there are other community outreach that we want to do to talk about sites or stuff beyond this SBC format, we should, Lynn and I can put our heads together on how best to do that as well. We can talk about sites during this process, but David won't have a lot to say about it.
Yeah. And what we've done in the past is have visioning workshops with just the school district, the school itself, and members of the SBC, and have them individually with David Stevens, and then every other one or whatever involved, have one or two that involve the community, so that not necessarily be invited to all of the visioning workshops that he puts forth.
So are you leave? Well, does anyone have any questions about that?
There's a question in the chat from Lauren about whether there's translation that's going to be, will translation be available at the workshops?
We have a person on our staff that he's an architect, but he speaks fluent Spanish. So we can offer him to be on the Zoom. I don't know about other languages.
We've
And David, I guess David Stephen is fluent as well. John is reminding me in Spanish.
Meaning that he would translate the entire meeting for people that are.
I know, I don't know how that would work.
Gene, you would have to talk to David Stevens about he did it in Revere. I think they had 3 rooms for 3 different languages. Can't remember all 3 languages, but
I think Dania was going to say something. Sorry.
Yep. Thanks, Mayor. I was just going to mention that once we finalize these dates, we can make sure that the city's translators and interpreters are available to translate.
Okay.
Would it be helpful, do we think, to have a Spanish specific workshop as part of the schedule?
well, I think that the way David Stevens sets it up is he has different links for different languages, and he runs them all at the same time, so that everybody's a part of, they're seeing each channel is seeing the same visuals, but they're hearing it in the language that they sign into.
Lynn, is he doing a webinar?
Yes.
Okay. That's how we run our PACs, our parent advisory councils. We do a Zoom webinar, and the participants can choose what language they want it in. But we would have to have translators for each of those rooms in the language that they're choosing.
Right, and everybody sees the same visuals as.
Correct.
Great. I see Peter has his hand up, and then Mayor McGee.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, whoever's on the call tonight, I think the instructions was to print this page off, circle up to how many will fit in our current schedules, and then scan it back directly to you, Lynn, for
Yes.
compilation. But my question is, when you circle, how many circles, number one? Number two, for the time slots that says anytime, obviously, AM, PM, I just want to be specific on what the expectations are from this committee to get back to you, Lynn, on this.
I would say, unless anybody else objects, that we should use this time slot that we've been having, the 6:30 time slot on those dates, and unless
Okay, because I'm just a little confused, because if you look at the block on the left, it says anytime or noon to 5
right.
on the 17th, 18th, 21st. I just want to be clear on what the expectations are on our deliverable back to you.
This time block is really for the school leadership and maybe the city leadership and the project team to just kind of talk to David about how to organize things like translation. What do you want to cover? Things like that. And the anytime refers to, I apologize, during the day.
Yeah.
Also from 8 to 5.
Yes.
basically.
Yep. And there's only one of those that are needed, but let's say that well, yeah, if we have our first meeting on November 2nd, we just want to make sure we meet before to get it organized.
So I
Okay.
would say on the dates that say anytime, if you could just put some time slots that you're available.
Okay. Again, I'm not trying to be difficult. I just don't want you to get mixed messages from anybody.
No,
And I just think
I appreciate it.
this is just a little confusing in that the sense that some people on this call are part of that leadership that you're referring to, and others are not. And I'm just trying to be consistent with what the expectation of participation will be.
Why don't, maybe I'll send out a doodle poll to
Sure.
people that we think should attend each of the meetings.
I think that's a fair.
And
that-
I would think that the kickoff meeting would only go to the district, the school, and representatives of the city. Whereas the visioning workshops would go to the SBC group, the whole SBC group. And we will make some advertisements for public
Yeah,
input.
I think that's a fair directive if you can handle that, or
Okay.
follow up with that. I think that's a fair request.
Thank you.
Just a quick note, Lynn, we do have the MSBA kickoff for the project on Monday, the 17th at 12:30. Just
Okay.
that time, we have to block out that time for that meeting.
Okay.
So just to clarify for me, like Tuesday, November 1st or the 2nd, those would be at 6:30. So people that are working during the day, like Peter, can make it to these meetings.
Correct.
Correct. These ones over the kickoff meetings would be during the day and would be more so schools.
Yeah, it would be more for the school department and the school representatives and as opposed to SBC members.
Because I just want to make sure that everybody understands that there are going to be evening times and the daytime. That I just want to make sure that's clear because I want everyone involved. Thank you.
Right. No, the first one is just a planning session, whereas the others are to actually start the workshops.
Great, thank you. Mayor McGee?
Thanks, Mayor Nicholson. Just quickly, just a point, Tuesday, November 8th is election day, which probably, I don't know if that would be a good day to do something like that. And the Monday, November 22nd is really Monday, November 21st. So I just want to make sure, that the right dates are what we're looking at. But I think that I just suggest Tuesday, election day would probably not be a good day to try and do this.
And can I also throw something out there? I just want to confirm that the kickoff meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 17th at 12:30, correct?
That's the
With
MSBA kickoff, yeah.
That's the MSBA. That's different from what this kickoff is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification there. And might I recommend that the visioning workshops, that we try and be consistent on the day? I think for community members and parents especially, that it's easier to remember if it's every Wednesday for a series of weeks at 6:30. It's easier to remember that than to have, 1 week it's on a Tuesday, another week it's on a Wednesday, another week it's on a Monday. So I personally would recommend that we consider Wednesdays at 6:30. Just a suggestion.
So Jean, can we have him reserve all 4 Wednesdays? The 2nd, the 9th, the 17th, and the 30th?
Yes, we can. Yes. Yep, I'll let him know tonight.
Okay.
And then get back to me if you don't mind, Lynn, with when you want to do the kickoff, but there's not as much pressure on that, obviously.
Okay.
All right, that's great. Thank you, everyone.
And then we just will need to reschedule. We tentatively, the next committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 9th at 6:30. So we'll have to move that.
Okay.
I have a little sign that says iPhone entered the waiting room. I'm not sure if
Oh, you have to admit him.
So, so are these planning workshops going to be committee meetings? Do we need a quorum for these meetings to go through, or that's actually not? We should be there, but it's not a quorum requirement to have, be able to pull up these meetings.
You don't, there will probably be a quorum.
Right.
And so we will post an agenda, but it won't be required to have them. No.
Okay, so it's not like an official meeting of the, so if we didn't have a quorum, they couldn't go forward. That's, want to make sure that,
Correct.
okay.
Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to switch, but do you, is it okay if I switch?
Yes.
Or we all set? So I want to start, this kind of keys into the educational vision and the programming. There was obviously talk about the designer proposal for, interest in the model school, which in this case is Thurgood Marshall. Steve and I had spent some time over the past year talking to Molly and her assistant principal, and we came out, we just wanted to see how the building itself had held up, how it was functioning, what might you do if you did something different. And I think this went out as part of your packet, but as I said, a lot of things have changed, I'm sure, over 6 years. And as we go through the programming and the visioning, this is just some examples of some of the feedback we received. And it doesn't mean we have to incorporate it, but I'll just run through it very, very quickly. They like that the building's set up in clusters, which is arranging 4 kind of core classrooms in a segregated group. So you're breaking this huge school into smaller communities. It's good. The parents like it. The kids like it. As far as I know, the administrators love it. We had 2 music classrooms at Thurgood Marshall. If it's possible, a third, would be good, because there's string, voice, core, band. The library, we learned, was not a funded position. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be, but there was some talk about thinking of the library or the media center maybe as more a multi-purpose space. Maybe it's a maker space. Maybe there's some STEM lab involved. So we'll want to flush that out during the visioning. That's an important space, and it's a big space. So how, you have a lot of square footage that MSBA will reimburse. So how do we want to think about using it? What we don't know, and we really will be interested in, as will the MSBA and the Department of Ed, is the various special ed programs. You have the coach program at Thurgood Marshall now. There's life skills, and there's probably some other programs, and some may be there at Pickering, some may not. So we're not going to get that answer obviously tonight, but the special ed program is a big part of how we design the school. But whatever we do, the feedback was we have life skills and coach up on the 2nd floor at Thurgood Marshall. But it would be appropriate, given the services you're providing, that it be on the 1st floor, if that's possible. We have 1 elevator, and I was surprised, but it kind of makes sense. It's out of service often, and if there's a handicapped individual, that person can't get to the upper floors. So if we end up with a multi-story building, that's something to consider. The gang toilet rooms was very interesting. Gang, like multiple fixtures for boys and multiple fixtures for girls. We had to have quite a few because there's a lot of kids in the building. But what we didn't know at the time was each of them have to be staffed by someone, and kids have to sign in and sign out. So we might want to think about how we arrange those toilet rooms, because there just isn't a lot of staff to actually man them. They actually don't use some of the toilet rooms in the building because of that. Let me just think. There's some space in the hallway that it was nice circulation space, very pleasant, but it would be nice to set it up as learning space. They used the courtyard a lot for learning. And so if there's interior spaces like alcoves in the lobbies or the hallways, we should really think about making them learning spaces as well. The black box theater is something, doesn't have to be a big room, but the drama program's very important. Doesn't have a home. They use the stage when they can, but that's not always available. So if there's any way to, well, anyway, for the administration, they're just suggesting, that the drama program, we should think about if there's a home for them. The unified arts, the wood shop, the drafting, the sewing, the cooking, very popular with the kids and very important to the kids. So, I don't know what the district's position is on that, but this is some of the feedback. They have a wonderful gymnasium, but I don't know. Do we think about a yoga or a movement room of some sort for other options? I think that's kind of some of the examples of some of the things that we might want to talk about during the visioning. So we also had, obviously the school is set up in these clusters, right? 3 classrooms and a science lab. So that's its own little hallway, its own little learning community. We did have space in the core between the 2 clusters. We had a project room, we had teacher planning rooms. With all the kids in the school now, a lot of these have been made into classrooms. But when we're designing the new school and redistributing the population, we should think about these internal cores. Again, we had a bathroom core and a bathroom core. Maybe somehow we just make this one a little bit bigger and we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But the other thing that I guess each cluster kind of has a morning meeting and there's no real gathering place for it. They hold it out in the hallway. So I think just talking about how we can think about these cores would be interesting. We had the 2, music rooms and, do we do 2 or 3? And what do we do with the stage? We didn't really set it up as a teaching space, but we have subsequently in other schools put, teaching walls, projectors, whiteboards, and made it accessible. So when it's not used as a stage, it could be used as a teaching space. And this is a situation where we had the life skills suite and some other special ed spaces up on the 2nd floor. So I had mentioned that as possibly coming down to the 1st floor. Now, whether it ends up in this configuration or not, is yet to be determined. But it does give us some points to start talking about as we envision the educational program going forward. So with that, I guess I can either pause if anyone has any questions, or there's no guarantee we're going to replicate Thurgood Marshall. We certainly can if it makes sense, but I think we do have a lot of programmatic study to do, right? And then as far as sites go, we know a lot about sites because we've had the benefit of working, in the city for many years previously. So these are just examples. We honestly have no preconceived notion. We understand how controversial the last time was, and we don't know where the school's going to end up, and that's good. We're going to go in, everyone, with an open mind and a lot of community input. So what we did in the study, in our proposal, was we had to show MSBA that we understood the problem. What's your approach? So we just picked Magnolia Field as a place where we could demonstrate how we might study different options. And again, this is this is just something that's, us throwing something out there to make MSBA understand that we understand kind of the work that has to happen. So on Magnolia Field, and because there was the thought in the RFS about model school, we simply took the Thurgood Marshall footprint and we tested it. This is what we call a test fit. Does it work on this? Does it fit on the site? So, in this case, yes, it does. And we can have the other, 3 floors on top of it. Wonderful. We know that there's some storm drains that are issues. We know that there's a MWRA water line, part of which might have to stay under the building or get relocated. But we are so far away from really exploring that. I just wanted to show you guys tonight, when we're going through this process over the next 4 months, we're not just going to come in with, plans, site plans, and have everyone envision, what the plan is trying to show. So we always do these little study models on our computer, just so you can put a picture with the, with the plan. And obviously there's a whole bunch of other factors that we'll be discussing. But so in this case, you have Pickering up here, and then you have the Sisson and the modulars. So we're just showing how, the scale of how, Thurgood Marshall, if you said just do what you did before, would fit on that site. And, we can look at it from a lot of different, angles. And one of the things I'd say about this is you have this wonderful gym, but you also have down here, you have that wonderful pond across the street. So I don't know, is there something better that might be looking at the pond that everyone's in every day? But, those are the kind of pros, cons that we would be kind of exploring as we go through this process. The second thing we showed the MSBA was, well, what if it's better to not try to move or deal with this MWRA water line? And what if we just take the core pieces of Thurgood Marshall and we kind of split off the community piece, which is the cafeteria and the gymnasium. And maybe this is up on the level of the Sisson, and maybe there's a bridge that goes over to the second floor of, the Thurgood Marshall upper floor levels. In this case, the buildings, kind of stacked down here. And that would, you wouldn't be touching this line. You could just have this bridge. So again, examples only, just how we would work through this process with you. So, looking at it from Canomo Avenue, maybe the gym part is up on the Sisson Plateau, and the rest of Thurgood Marshall, the good parts of it are down, on Magnolia Field. I can't say it enough. I don't know where the building's going to end up. We just are kind of using this as examples. So, in this case, that's kind of the scale of how it looks. And then as we go through the programming process, maybe we'll end up incorporating a black box theater or a third music room or something. And maybe we think about Flax Pond and who gets to see it. So maybe we take the kind of the good parts of Thurgood Marshall on the upper floors, but maybe the lower floor is just, customized for this new program. And maybe everyone who's in the cafeteria has a view out to the pond. And so, maybe it looks something like this, and the front entry is actually out here on Magnolia Ave instead of, over on the side here. So again, these kind of studies will happen on any number of sites, but it's a reason that it's important for us to do the visioning and the programming, and then we will just start working. And looking at all sorts of different things that we can do on all sorts of different sites. And then speaking of sites, we have a lot of experience from the last time we were working on this. We had looked at 13 different sites all throughout the city. just to orient you, this red dot is where the Pickering Middle School is now. This red dot is where Thurgood Marshall is, and this red dot is where Breed is. So we are going to refresh all of our site analysis. But one thing that I think we understand is that we really should be concentrating on sites that are in the northern part of the city, Ward 1, so to speak, but maybe some of it bleeds out into some of the others, right? So in our proposal to MSBA, again, to demonstrate that we had a handle on the project, we identified a series of 7 sites that we could figure out, most of which we had already looked at. So we'll be looking to you and the community to let us know if there are other sites that you would like us to study, which of course we will. The other thing that we know has to happen, and we really want to take advantage of this process and whatever skills we bring to it to help you figure out where the best, evaluate sites kind of based on a lot of different things, neighborhood impact, and does the building fit and cost. But we also know that you have to redistrict. And again, if it's helpful, I think we could add a little bit of help to that. So right now, Thurgood Marshall District is overcrowded, right? So we got to send some kids either up to Pickering from Thurgood Marshall, and Breed is overcrowded, or send some kids, to one of these sites from Breed. And let's say we do it from, maybe it makes sense to take the Thurgood Marshall kids and push them over to here, and take more of the Breed kids and push them up there, or vice versa. So again, absolutely no preconceived notions, but I think you should take advantage of this study to figure out the most advantageous district lines. And if we can help, we'd like to. And just knowing what we know, these are all the MBTA bus routes, which we had documented as part of our previous work. So a big part of the site selection, one of the factors might be transportation, either bus routes, or if you have to take kids from Thurgood Marshall, what's the road network and what's traffic like in the city? And again, we don't have any answers right now, but it's something that I know traffic is an issue when there are no school buses. So that's something that we would like to get into. And then just as a starting point, I'm going to run through just some of the sites that we were thinking about in our proposal, and not to select any, but just to kind of give you some of the issues that we as a group are going to have to wrangle with. So site 1 is Gowdy Park, which is way up in the northern part of the city. It's a park. Any of these parks are going to have to go through a process to get the land taken out of parkland status, approved by 2/3 of the state legislature, as to come out. But then also you have to replace that parkland somewhere else within the city. So you might say that one of the cons is that it's subject to this Article 97 to the state constitution. Maybe it's in a remote location. There's no question about that. One of the good things is it's off a main thoroughfare, so maybe it's good traffic wise. I don't know. But one of the other issues is, I believe some of it might be above ground, some of it might be in culverts, but this blue line here represents a what they call Cedar Brook. So, clearly there's going to be some conservation issues we'd have to deal with on this site. So, that's that again. We had looked at the former Union Hospital site, many years ago. And as I understand it, the front part here on Linfield Street either in the process or has been redeveloped as commercial land or commercial property, which is great for the tax base. The Thurgood Marshall footprint, I mean, it's easy just to do a test fit with that. It does fit on the back part of the site with adequate parking. But I don't know if this is a good site, viable site. If you-
Yeah, and so my understanding here, Gene, just to jump in, is that
Yeah.
these are all listed here as illustrative from the work that was done, several years ago now. So all these will need to be updated. So I think, it's helpful background for folks, but obviously this is not up-to-date information. So
No, there's no way it's up to date. And I don't want to give anyone the impression it is.
Yeah.
I could just fly through them, but I'm just trying some of the issues that we'll have to sort through as we start our work.
right. I just, okay.
Yeah. So, then we looked at a site on Broadway that, we found that it's a 55-foot elevation change to get up to it. It's in private hands. So, we looked at a site over on Rockdale.
And just want to be clear to the committee that when we do this, we will identify actual sites and run through the pros and cons in detail. I think Gene is just showing this as illustrative of the kind of, sites that happened last time, but we will run through these sites that we actually pick in detail and talk through the pros and cons. But that's not what's happening right now. I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, please. I'm glad you said that, Mayor. It's and I can just, Rockdale was a potential site we looked at. We looked at Magnolia Park. I showed you how we might work through the process there. We looked at, this was very controversial last time up at Parkland Avenue. Gallagher Park was it's out of Ward 1, and it's one of the places that we looked at last time that was kind of close to Pickering. But they're all going to have a ton of pros and cons, and we haven't even started in with traffic or all that other stuff. So I just wanted to set the stage for there's a lot of work to do in the next 4 months. But we don't have to pick the final site. We just have to identify the ones that are worthy of more study. And then by May, we'll want to submit the final one.
And Gene, just to clarify, and I think you have done a really good job. You're just showing these sites that were discussed 5 or 6 years ago.
Correct.
None of them are in play right now until we have a chance as a committee to take a look at it. And there may be other sites that we haven't explored. Although I think the challenge is there's not a lot of other locations, so there'll be a narrow site. But we're just I think it's helpful to just kind of get an idea of the process we'll be going through as we try and determine together what the right site is and how the community can be supportive of that site. So I think you've made it pretty clear. This is just reviewing what basically was done a few years ago and revisiting in a way to give us a chance to understand what we need to do in the process.
Yeah, and so I just based on the comments, I'm going to apologize. My thought was just to start talking about issues we're going to have to think about, but I certainly don't want to get out ahead of anything the SBC is going to look at.
Can we put a stamp? Can you go back and put a stamp on these slides somehow saying that? Because my fear is this is a public meeting and this is going to be it's being recorded. Somebody could go out and just start printing one of these. And I think Lorraine was saying she's already hearing from people freaking out about we've already selected something. So if we could, draft, not thinking about something, but just so if somebody prints this tomorrow, it's going to say, we're not considering this. Or this was from the last few, not considered yet.
Yep.
I don't know what it is, but.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
You have that note, Gene, on one of the slides?
What's that?
Gene, didn't you have that note on one of the slides? I thought I saw it somewhere where it said these are not currently under consideration or something like that.
Yeah, we did on the Magnolia studies. So
okay.
I will put something.
Also, Gene, maybe you could just put the dates on the slide. You could say ward this site considered in, and then put back to the year that you considered it, what, 2015, 2016.
Yes.
Jean, I was saying that about people already giving me rumblings because like someone just made a mention of putting it on the Parkland Ave and I got verbally attacked by several people up at the golf course, like within 2 weeks. So they're really paying attention. They're paying attention to these sites. They need to know that these are sites we're just looking at or looked at the last time, and it has to be very clear because they'll just look at the picture and say, that's the site, there it is. It's on this one. They'll just take a snapshot of that and then they'll start throwing it on Facebook. And then it's all over the place. And Karen Coulon, Karen, you can attest to me. Attest that for me.
I absolutely hear that, and I understand the seriousness, and I apologize if this is going to cause any chaos. So we'll reissue it tomorrow.
Jean, I love looking at it because I know we're not going here. You know, we don't know what we're actually doing, and I really appreciate looking at those sites in more detail.
Yeah.
But someone that's just jumping on. They're not looking, they're looking for reasons why we shouldn't be building at certain places, not why we should.
Gotcha. So that's what we're going to be wrestling with, as I said, and over the next few months. And with that, I guess I turn it back over to Lynn, right?
So just to wrap up real quick, we have our next meeting scheduled for November 9th, but it looks like not only is it a conflict with RDA, but it looks like it may be a conflict with our educational visioning. So we need to look at another night for that for meeting, and possibly not, since we've kind of booked all of our Wednesday nights in November. Is there any other night of the week that this group is available? Could we do a?
You and I can't do the 10th, the evening of the 10th.
Yes. So Monday, Tuesday, or is that available to this group? The 7th or 8th, or the following week? Because I don't think the 8th is a good one either. So perhaps the following week, Tuesday night, is that good? That would be the 15th, November 15th.
Works for me.
Okay.
Is there a
Not for
council
me.
meeting that night, Tuesdays?
There are city council meetings on the 15th and the 22nd, back-to-back weeks this month.
Okay.
So
The 7th.
What about Monday the 7th?
Okay.
We have superintendent interviews.
What about the 14th?
or the 17th. 17th? Is that the Thursday?
No. Yeah.
14th works better for me, but
Not for me.
I don't.
if you have a quorum for the 17th, you should just go for it.
Yeah, because the following week's Thanksgiving. So
Right.
17th works for me.
17th works for me.
Okay, let's set that for the 17th then. And I believe that concludes the presentation for tonight.
That will be at 6:30, correct? On the
Yes.
17th. Yep.
Yes.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Great. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Meeting adjourned. Wow, Gene, thank you so much for joining us. To you and your team, we are thrilled to have you on board. We're so excited that the team is in place. Obviously, We're very eager to get to the substance of what this is going to be, where this is going to go. And you have a great group here who is eager to dive into that and think that through with everybody so that we can do this the best way possible.
Well, thank you. Thank you for, I guess, advocating. I mean, we're excited about it. I can't wait to get into it. So,
Us too.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all and have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Take care.